Okay, this is going to be a short follow-up video about what the NAS performance issues are, where the problem lies, and as you'll see, it was pretty much what I thought it was. So let's get to it real quick. This video is not going to be very long, but I just wanted to bring you up to date as to the tests that I've run and what I have found. So we'll go from there. Okay, so for our first round of tests here, I'm just going to verify that this is a disk cache issue. So what I want you to pay particular attention to is I'm going to start out with the smaller of the RAID arrays. We've been through this on the previous video. We're going to go through the read-write tests again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size of the file several times, and you'll notice as we get closer and closer to the level of cache that's actually on the drive, our results are going to speed up. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with the 1 gig, and I will speed up portions of this recording so that we're not sitting here twiddling our thumbs. So let's start out here at first. Also, I want you to note that you want to also look at the same time what the CPU usage is, what the RAM usage is. It doesn't change a lot on these particular tests here. But anyway, let's just run through this. All right, so we've seen these numbers before. This is nothing new. This is nothing surprising. Now, this particular set of drives only has 64 megabits of cache on the drive. So I'm going to go and chop this down to 256 just to pick. And we'll run the tests again. And we should see some improvement. I think a little bit of improvement on the writes here. So let's go ahead and do this, run this test. And there you have it. The write numbers went up because we're not trying to shove so much into the drive. All right, so let's see what happens if we actually drop this down. I think the lowest setting we have, okay, so let's drop it to 64. Drop it to 64, we'll run the test again. And there you have it. If you don't exceed the cache that's on the drive, we get wonderful read and write. Not too bad. I think those are close enough to each other. Okay, so can I repeat this? I can repeat this. I can go to the pair of 8 terabyte drives, which is this selection here. And I again can run the test at the 1 gig file size. And we'll run the test on this, and you'll see what the results you get, which we've gotten again in the first video. So none of this should be a surprise. And again, while this is going on, you want to watch the memory usage and the CPU usage, and you will find that the system is not really being taxed that badly. So there you go. There you see it. That's our results. Now, the 8 terabyte drives have a 256 megabyte cache built into the drive. So it does a little bit better on the 1 gig test file. So let's just see, for the sake of argument, let's drop that down to half that, 512. Okay, it's half the file size, but it's twice the cache that's on the drive. Now we'll run the test again. Okay, so there you go. You've got 169. All right, so let's go and change the file size to the same size as the cache that's on the drive. Run that test. And there you go. You've got an increase in speed. Now, what happens if, for example, we drop this down to something like 128? Drive should be able to handle that without any problem. I won't overrun the cache on it. Let's just run that test real quick. Okay, there you go. that tells the story right there. As long as you don't exceed the cache on the drive, you can get as quickly as the drive can handle it. So now, to experiment with what if you have solid state drive? Well, it just so happens that I did install a solid state drive into the NAS. That's this one right here. It is a older SanDisk 240 gig I had laying around. It's a 2.5-inch drive. But how does that do with the 1 gig file? Well, we're going to find out here in just a second. Now, you'll notice that there's a bit higher usage here on the CPU dealing with the solid state drive. Memory never really changes much at all. So it's not a resource problem on the NAS itself. Even though the NAS is essentially running on a potato with 8 gig of memory, single stick, it's not struggling to try and keep up. So all right, so apparently the solid state drive has probably a DRAM buffer on it, which can apparently easily handle the 1 gigabit. So we're not having a bottleneck on the LAN anymore. We're not having a bottleneck due to the CPU and the amount of memory and whatever. It's purely a disk problem, without question. Now, if you want to see how big is the DRAM buffer on the solid state drive, now let's see. Let's go up to the next one. Let's do a 2 gigabyte file. Now, I'm guessing the DRAM buffer is probably maybe a 1 gig if it's lucky, but we're going to find out. Let's run the 2 gig and see what happens. Okay, so as I suspect, the DRAM buffer on the solid state drive is probably about 1 gig, or it's somewhere close to that. As you notice, as soon as we get to the 2 gig file, the write speeds they drop off because we're trying to fill the file. We're trying to fill the drive with a file so fast that it's like, no, it's not going to happen. All right, so that's what we got. What the problem is the cache size on the drives. Now, is there any way to possibly alleviate that? Well, might be. What I'm going to do now, which I have to obviously do not on camera or live or whatever, is I'm now going to take away that that solid state drive as a drive to be written to, at least as far as the file system is concerned. I'm going to take that drive and I'm going to turn it into a cache drive. So basically, I'm going to have a solid state cache on the system and see if that helps the spinning drives with being able to handle a faster write speed. So I'll come back after I've made that change, and we'll see what kind of results we get with that deal. Okay, so now the solid state drive, as you can see here, is set up as a virtual device. It should be set to cache. We'll see if this makes any difference at all. I don't know that it will, but it's there. So we go back to here. And let's run our test starting at the 1 gig test on the 4 terabyte pair, which is how we started this first round. And let's just take a look and see what we get. Now, overall, I don't know that that's much of an improvement to what we had as a baseline. So, all right, let's go down to the 256, which was the second one that we ran. See if we get anything here. Yeah, I think that's significantly worse. I'm going to double check the video. Give me a second. I'm going to pause this for just a second here. Hold on. Yep, it's definitely worse. So it doesn't look like the cache is doing much for us here at all. All right, we'll give it one more wing here and just We'll go to the 64 meg and let's just see what happens. But I'm not impressed at this point. Yeah, not really much of a change here. No, it doesn't appear to be helping that at all. So I guess probably what we'll do now is let's go over to the 8 terabyte pair. Let's go back to the 1 gig test file. And let's see what happens. No, same problem. Doesn't seem to help. In fact, it seems to be pulling things back. It's interesting. All right, let's go to the 512 test on this one and see what happens here. But so far, I'm not impressed. Okay, still not, no good. It's not off by a lot, but it's still off. This number is pretty far down. So, all right, let's move on to the next one, which is the 256. Let's see what happens here. Now, interestingly enough, that is a little bit better. Not a lot, but it is a little bit better. So, all right, last test is the 128 file, which it should be able to handle easily without a whole lot of trouble. But let's see what happens. Yeah, and that's more or less the same. That's what we had previously. So, yeah, there's no thing there. I think we've basically just topped out on the drive at that point because we're not exceeding the cache. The cache is what it is. So either I have the cache set up wrong in the system, which is entirely possible. I've never done that before. Or it just simply doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference, and in certain cases it seems to be hindering things. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. But in any case, I have identified what the problem is. The problem is the drives. We've already seen when I set up a solid state drive in the system and I do the read-write tests, we get, well, pretty much we get these numbers here, even on a 1 gig file. So I think that pretty much concludes what's going on here. I think I've managed to identify the problem. I think I identified it originally in the original video as one of the top 2 reasons why I was having issues. So anyway, there you go. There's your numbers. And there's not much else I can say about it. You all have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.